I came across an interesting book recently. It's called Bias Interrupted: Creating Inclusion for Real and for Good. It's by Joan Williams, a professor of law. And in it, she describes how companies in the US have been spending about $8 billion a year on diversity and inclusion, and unfortunately not making very much difference at all. A simple message is that companies have been using the wrong tools and wasting money. She concludes that what's needed is to use the same tools they use to solve any business problem: evidence, metrics, and persistence until they achieve their goals. There are 5 patterns of bias that show up consistently in her research. The first is prove it again. Some groups have to prove themselves more than others. For instance, a group of white men are judged on their potential, whereas everybody else needs to have delivered before they get the same kind of opportunities. The second is the tightrope. Office politics are more complicated for some groups than others. White men just need to be authoritative and ambitious. Other groups need to be authoritative and ambitious, but only in a way which is acceptable. People of color who behave assertively may well be seen as angry if they're Black, feisty if they're Latina, or untrustworthy if they're Asian. The third pattern is the tug of war, and that's when bias against a group fuels conflict within the group. That often happens when women are pitted against each other for the one woman slot, or when people of color are pitted against each other for the one diversity slot. This kind of bias really burdens the relationships within the groups. The fourth pattern, which is actually the strongest form of gender bias, is the maternal wall. Gender bias triggered by motherhood. Mothers are stereotyped as less competent and less committed than other people. The final pattern is stereotypes and experiences that differ by group and don't feature in the other 4. In her book, Williams makes little mention of other groupings like LGBTQ+ or the disabled, but I suspect that the solutions she offers apply across the board. One of the standard approaches to tackle EDI is to hire more women and people of color, but that's not the answer. Over the past 25 years, many organizations have hired these people, but when they don't see a future for themselves because they're not getting fair access to career-enhancing opportunities, they leave. You have to interrupt bias in your basic business systems, not only in hiring, but also in performance evaluations and promotion. Another reason why there's been so little progress is because companies hire ahead of EDI and then give them no power. They're not set up to succeed. I know of one who's been made to report to an HR business partner when the really successful organizations have the head of diversity and inclusion on the executive team alongside the head of HR and with direct access to the CEO. The fundamental question is, do you really want to address the problem of diversity and inclusion or not? If you treat it as a tick box affair, it'll cost you a lot of money with no real return. But there is a good solution. Go back into your business systems, treat it as an ongoing challenge, and begin to correct for these various biases. If you're not sure how to go about this, drop us an email or give us a call. My name is Thom Dennis, and I'm the CEO of Serenity in Leadership, and I'll see you next week.